Coming up on the Geno Auriemma Show, presented by UConn Health.
We're not going to go play somebody just to play them. Every game we play generally has a purpose to it. Those schools that go, I'm not playing them, what's the point? Well, you're missing the point.
Plus.
Okay, let's get in the corner, start the ball here. We better get more physical and get more gritty on this team. Go! Probably leading up to practice and going through practice and trying to get it all the way you want it to look. All that is way more, I think, exhausting than actually coaching in a game.
And
look for that cutter! Make sure we look for the cutter! It's funny what you can do when you have no choice. When you're put in a situation where like you really have to fight together or it's all over for you guys.
that and much more on the Geno Auriemma Show. Welcome to the Geno Auriemma Show. And Coach, you're a few games into conference play. What do you like and dislike about this time of year?
I worry about too much free time on their hands. I worry about that. I worry that there's a lot of downtime and they get mentally and physically sluggish. The big difference between a really good player and a great player is great players don't get tired. They just don't. And what makes them great is when the good players get tired, the great player kicks their ass. That's the difference. That's a big thing for me, having kids be busy. We try to keep them busy, but there's nothing like they're in class, they have work to do, they've got to be places, then practice, and then, you know, it's just a really good flow to their day instead of get up in the morning, go to practice, have some lunch, sleep the rest of the day. So that's my biggest fear, more than anything else.
You talked about keeping them mentally fresh and how school helps with that. What about physically keeping them ready this time of year?
I think every coach has to wrestle with that. You know, how hard should we go? You know, when do you back off? We've done a pretty good job over the years, you know, but it's always a worry. Our strength coach, Amanda Kimball, you know, and I see this with a lot of players too. They wear these heart monitors, you know, now at every practice, every game. So everything that they do is computerized. And, you know, we can tell what their workload was, you know, who worked really, really hard, who didn't. Go! So we have better ways of monitoring that now. Before it was just, they looked tired. You know, it was all, you know, your guesstimate based on what you know and what you see. There is more information out there, but physically, I don't worry as much as I do mentally. People that are mentally sharp are never tired.
Is there a rhythm to this time of year with conference play that can be beneficial?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. If it's somewhat predictable, you know, we play Wednesday, Saturday, or we play Wednesday, Sunday, or we play, you know we've got a game in the middle of the week somewhere, and then we know we have a game on the weekend. It's easy to plan your schedule out then. The only thing that gets, obviously, into the mix is, you know, the travel part. You got a long way to go sometimes. So you have to be mature. You know, the coaches love when they have a mature team. There's nothing worse than coaching an immature team, because now you're worried about everything. Are they getting enough sleep at night? You know, are they eating right? You know, do they have too many distractions going on? All these things go into how they perform. So you like to have mature players who really know how to take care of business.
Now, in the midst of all this, there's two tough non-conference opponents on the schedule this year. Is that by design that happens pretty much every February?
Yeah, we'd like to do that. I wouldn't mind having another one in February and another one in January. I think the ability to like step away from your normal conference stuff and play a team that is the kind of team you might have to play in the NCAA tournament. Or you're going to play them on a Monday night and you have a conference game on Saturday. So you only have one day in between games, and that's just like the NCAA tournament. So I like playing those games. The two we have, South Carolina and Louisville, are both really challenging in a different way. One's home and one's away, so that's good. And I'm sure the kids will look forward to those like they always do.
We've talked a lot about the team. How do you yourself keep from getting burned out?
I think a coach has to be aware of not getting into that same routine that the players are in. So you have to make sure that you're not sluggish, that you're not mentally not where your team needs you to be. And it's easier than you think, but we make it hard because there's a constant level of worrying and stress that if you're not careful, you have to deal with on a different level. Like, you know, you have to make sure you work out a lot. You have to make sure that, you know, you have everything organized so you're not running around like crazy. You need help from your other coaches. So I think it's combined. It's a team thing, you and your other coaches. And you need time. You need time alone. You need time to yourself. That always helps.
What is more mentally taxing for you, a practice or a game?
Here's my biggest concern. We do shooting drills. You make every shot. Then when we play, you're afraid to touch the ball, and you throw it up at the rim like it's a hand grenade. That one drill, we shot threes. You must have made 30 of them. Then we get in the game, you catch it, and you panic. The next thing that has to happen is you guys got to find a way to achieve some kind of calmness, probably leading up to practice and going through practice and trying to get it all the way you want it to look, trying to see the improvement in everybody.
It's a great play, Kyla.
She's learning.
She is.
She's learning. Being happy when you see it, being disappointed when you don't, the ups and downs of, you know, how some players will show you something and then you'll be like, and then they're right down. All that is way more, I think, exhausting than actually coaching in a game. Coaching in a game, I think once you get to the game, it's kind of out of your hands, you know? Really not much you can do about it. I think practice is way more taxing than games. Ideally, you'd like to recruit a great kid who's a great player, a great kid who's a great teammate, who's a really good player, a great basketball player who's a really good student. Everybody has this wish list that they could have all that. We've gotten it right a bunch of times. You know, we've gotten the kind of kids that are committed to school, they're great teammates, they're great kids to have on the team. I bet you in the 30-some years that I've been here, I bet you I could count on less than one hand how many kids I've had come through here and have me say, you know what, that was one of the biggest mistakes of my life, bringing that kid here. Most of the time, we get it right. We can coach ball screens and passing into the post and cutting and playing defense. We're not here to coach your energy level and your effort. That's a given. You wouldn't be here if I had to coach that. That's what other coaches have to do. They have to coach energy. We don't. Do you get surprised sometimes by a kid that comes in and they fooled you in the whole recruiting process? Yeah, that's happened. Very rarely is it ideal. But if we're going to make a mistake, I'd rather make a mistake and get a good kid who's not as good as I thought they were. I can live with that.
So you are in the midst of a ton of travel with the team, only 5 home games, 10 away games between December 2nd and February 2nd. Is that unusual schedule-wise for this team?
Very unusual. It's not ideal. And next year it'll be just flipped, you know. But when you're putting together non-conference games, sometimes it doesn't fall exactly the way you want it to fall because, well, we want to play you at home this year and away next year. Well, we can't fit that in, blah, blah. How about we skip a year? So now all of a sudden it gets all out of whack, and you have a bunch of those. Every coach is trying to balance it out so that you have a few more home games than you do road games. That's the ideal way to do it. Some years it gets distorted. And this year, the front end especially was really bad. Very, very unusual.
Do you think that UConn's philosophy on scheduling is different than other teams?
I do. For the most part, I do. I think two things. One, we have two arenas, which is good and bad, you know? It is what it is. It's not going to change. And then second, we don't worry about who we're playing and where and when. So if somebody says, hey, we want to play you, you know, on this date, at this place, was it going to be on national television? For sure, right? At a really good hour, right? Yes. All right, we're in. We're not going to go play somebody just to play them, you know? Mm-hmm. Every game we play generally has a purpose to it.
Do you feel like teams are receptive to UConn when you call and ask to play a game?
The ones that we want to play, for the most part, yes. Mm-hmm. I think they see the value in us coming to play there. I think the benefit of playing us is that, one, you're going to get way more fans than you get on your own. And two, your players are going to play their brains out because of who they're playing. And three, there's a chance you might win, which changes everything in your program then for a while. So those schools that go, I'm not playing them, what's the point? Well, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. And I like Bruno's idea. Bruno says, well, how are we ever going to beat them if we don't play them? I mean, I think that's a great philosophy to have.
How do you alleviate some of the stresses of travel that your team endures, especially on some of those extended trips?
Well, fortunately, you know, we can charter every road trip, so we're not waiting around in airports. You know, we're not getting there 2 hours before the plane leaves. We can get back earlier than if we flew commercial. So there's a bunch of things that alleviate it. We try to involve the kids in wherever we're going, you know. So if we're in a particular place and there's a lot of cool stuff to do in that city, then we're going to take advantage of it every chance we get. We don't just coop them up in the hotel until game time. We're out and about. So, you know, traveling's not as much fun as people think it is. So we try to add some fun to it.
Sometimes even when the team has a few days where they're off, you are traveling a ton for recruiting and for engagements. How do you handle all of that?
Sometimes I wonder, you know, but again, if you keep moving, I've always thought if you keep moving, it's hard to become kind of sedentary and just, If you're always on the move, your blood's always flowing, there's always something going on. You know, we might fly someplace, play Saturday or Sunday, let's say, or say we play Wednesday on the road. After the game, plane comes home, players get back, they have class the next day or whatever. Maybe they have a day off the next day. And you know, I'm staying overnight in that place and then flying someplace the next day to go see a game. That's just part of what we do. When it all goes smoothly, it's not bad. You know, go to a game, watch a great game, watch a really good player play, come home. Doesn't always work that way, but it's part of what we do. It's part of our job. Watch. Pay attention. Go. Good. 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 Nobody can move laterally standing up straight. This is how you move. Down lower. Down lower. Lower the better. Race cars are a lot faster than trucks. Everybody's got a job to do, so do it. Good. That's the way to be aggressive, right? That's the way to be aggressive. Let's go, elbow, jump shots. Elbow. Elbow. Shoot quickly, shoot quickly. You don't have forever. Game speed. You gotta make that, man. Drive it hard, Fisa. All the way to the elbow. Drive it, drive it. Good. That's it, good.
Go somewhere with the dribble.
Good.
Go somewhere.
Together, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Together. Let's go.
Geno, several players have said that practice is often more difficult for them than the games. Is that on purpose?
Well, yeah, I think you're your training to go perform should always be a little more difficult than the actual performance should be. Go! The last thing you want to do is practice at a certain level and then go play at a higher level. I don't think you'll be prepared for that, you know? Practices are meant to be a little more difficult, a little more challenging. When you're in a game, you play 30 minutes, let's say. In a 40-minute game, you play 30 minutes. When you're in practice, you're out there for an hour and a half. You're not getting 30 minutes off. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of thinking, and there's a lot of adjustments, and there's a changing from offense to defense to, you know, this drill, that drill, and you're constantly going, and there's a pace to it.
Hey, let me have 3 guys at a basket, 2 balls. Let's go, quickly.
It's supposed to be like that in order to make the game appear or feel like it's, all right, I can handle this.
What goes into developing a practice plan each day?
Well, I think variety is important, so you're not doing the same things every day. I think there's got to be a combination of individual stuff, you know, where your players feel like they're getting individual instruction.
When you shoot it, when you go like this, okay, you're always turning. You're always turning. Turning.
There's got to be some team stuff that's breakdowns, you know, that involves 3 players or 4 players, and then there's 5. There's just some half-court offense. There's just some half-court defense. There's mixing the two together and transitions, and so there's variety. It's, you know, not too much standing around. So it's, if you do something that's here, then you want to follow it up with something that's up and down. And then after that, you want to follow it with something that's more instructing.
You don't have to go anywhere. The minute that guy catches it, they ought to be able to throw it to you somewhere in this area right here as you're moving. You guys don't want to catch it and start dribbling or anything, okay? That ball goes.
So there's a flow that you want to have to your practice, and every coach is different in how they view that. You know, some coaches, they have a stopwatch or they have the clock, and they're married to the clock. You know, I got 7 minutes for this drill. At the end of 7 minutes, we're done. Let's get out of here. Let's go to the next thing. I'm not necessarily that coach. If I think it sucks after 7 minutes, we're not going to just stop. I mean, yeah, I want to only do it for 7 minutes, but if we end up doing it for 12 minutes, that's your fault, not mine. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right.
That was really good offense right there.
Most of the time, you know, you have a pretty good idea. This is how long I want this to take, and let's move along. The one thing that has changed, I think you have to change up from this to this to this to this to that way quicker than you had to years ago.
Big guys down here, guards down the other end.
I think getting people to zero in on one thing for a long period of time is not easy in today's world.
Can you tell when you walk in the gym if it's going to be a productive day or not?
A lot of times, yes. And with some teams, you know you're not going to get 2 or 3 days the same. You know that it's just too like this because they don't like practice maybe. And then you know with other teams, they come in and they're ready, man. And you know today is going to be like all out. And you know some players are like that. Some players are going to walk in, and I've had players come to Connecticut, and for 4 years, they never had a bad day. You know, but before you walked out there, you know, this is what I'm going to get. And it never changed for 4 years. And then others, you never knew what you were going to get. So as much as the whole team's like that, individual players are like that.
What is the worst practice you or your team has had, and why? Doesn't have to be this specific team, just in your memory at Connecticut, anything stick out to you?
It's funny. There's been a couple. There was one where, and I think we had a bunch of young players, but we just threw 7 of the players out of practice. So we were stuck with 5 players. Maybe we had 6. And now we're doing all our drills, and now instead of having 12 players out there, they only have 6, and they have to try to, and it was, I don't want to laugh, but it was kind of funny to see the 6 of them try to accomplish drills that were meant for 12 people. And then the best part was you looked over and you could see the other 6 players pressed up against the window of the door, you know, wanting to come in. And that one, and then another one where we were playing 5-on-5. And I thought one kid just wasn't contributing anything on the defensive end. So I said, get off. I said, we're better off playing 5-on-4. So we played 5-on-4, and it was really, really good. You know, those 4 on defense were really, really good until
Penalty
they weren't.
kill almost.
Until they weren't. So I took another one off. And now they were playing 5-on-3. I'm telling you, they were amazing, those 3 kids. It's funny what you can do when you have no choice. When you're put in a situation where, like, you really have to fight together, or it's all over for you guys. So those 2 stick out in my mind. Back when we practiced over in Gamble years ago, I would just say, I'm done. I would just walk out. And you can tell a lot about your team by how they react to that. Listen, guys, I'm done. I'll see you. And I left, and I went in my locker room. And I remember it was Jennifer and Jamel. Let's go. I said, nah, I really don't feel like practicing today. You guys don't really want to be here, so I don't want to be here either. And they stayed there, and they threatened me, really. I mean, there was 2 of them and just one of me. Like, no, you're coming out to practice. So we went back out, and we had a great practice. I've done that with some other teams, and they're like, thank God, let's get out of here. And they're right out the door.